Welcome back, folks, to Rapid Fire Leaked, and today we'll cover the Chrysler K heavy tank. So this is going to be a premium tier 8 American heavy tank with a rear mounted turret. So it's very unorthodox of a tank design for the Americans, but very similar to the German super heavies, like the VK4502P Off-Speed at tier 9 or the Maus at tier 10. So that's the main reason that this project was cancelled, was because the unprovenness of the rear-mounted turret design, as well as the cost, because at the time, there were already a lot of heavy tank projects like the T-29, the T-30, T-34, and T-32. So yeah, this tank was superfluous, unproven, and cost a lot of money. So that's why the project was cancelled, and it's only a paper tank, a model tank, but it's a lot more interesting. Way more interesting than stuff like KV-122s, right? Oh god, that's a piece of turd, stupid KV-122. Gonna rip on it for the eternity of my life. But I want to do this vehicle. About 2 months ago, for the 9.17 test server, the computer broke. Lost all the research, all the resources, the templates for the leak episodes. And it was the holidays, so wonderful. But let's take a look at the Chrysler K. So here you can see the initial model of the vehicle. It was designed by Chrysler Corporation right after World War II in the summer of 1946 to counteract the Soviet IS-3s based on the designs of the E-100 and the Maus super heavy tank project. But it was unproven, so the army did not like it because they already liked the T-32, T-34 projects. They modified the T-34 with the modified turret ring, a new turret, and that became the T-43 prototype, which later became the M103. So this vehicle was the new guy, unproven, so unknown if it's reliable, and cost a lot of money, so project was cancelled. But on paper, it supposedly have 180mm about frontal armor, sloped at 30 degrees, 3 inches, 76.2mm at the sides. So pretty thick armor, high velocity 105mm, with a crew of 4 in the turret, remote controlled machine gun pods based on the B-29 Super Fortress. So pretty awesome. Top speed of 60 kilometers per hour. Engine power of 1,200 horsepower, weighs about 60 tons. So on paper, this vehicle has a horsepower per ton ratio of 20 for a heavy tank. In 1946, that's crazy. And it weighs 60 tons that could go up to 60 kilometers per hour top speed. That's crazy. That's close to the Abrams. Modified Abrams. That's today's standards. This was a pipe dream of 1946, but Jesus, that's crazy, right? So yeah, it was interesting, but at least there were some articles about this vehicle, whereas vehicles like the T-28 concept, that was basically a model that Wargaming just bought off of eBay and give it random stats, arbitrary stats, and called it a tank. So there were at least one article about this vehicle. So here is the main article about this tank. It's in Firepower, a history of the American heavy tank, written by the late Mr. Richard Pierce Hunnicutt. So I highly recommend you getting this book. It's pretty awesome. It has a lot of details about the M103s, the patents, the Pershings, all the stuff. So here you can see that this tank was designed based off the Maus and the U-100 programs to counteract the Soviet IS-3s. So it has a high velocity 105, has 1,200 horsepower engine, so it has a lot of armor, pretty thick tracks. 4 machine guns were based off the Super Fortress, B-29 Super Fortress. So it was pretty awesome, but it was a pipe dream because 1,200 horsepower for a 60-ton tank. Insane. That's crazy. I mean, that's Abrams standards. I mean, current modern day main battle tanks have about 30 horsepower per ton ratio. with about 60 tons, so it was close to modern day main battle tanks, but insane standards. But Chrysler also made another K tank, so there were actually two Chrysler Ks. The initial one was the heavy tank, the second one was a modified M60 pattern with the modifications of the MBT-70 main battle tank turret onto this vehicle. So they want to test out the 152 gun launcher thing, which fires the super high penetrating, high explosive M-type tank. We're not getting it, but there's actually two Chrysler Ks, so food for thought. The more stuff you know, right? But we're not getting this vehicle, no way, unless you want to instantly melt like Mouses or T95s. We're not getting it. So sad to say that the T49 is losing the 152, getting only a high velocity 90mm, whereas the XM551 Shuridan prototype will not get the super high penetrating high explosive anti-tank because that just breaks the game. Or unless you shoot the tracks and that does nothing. But more you know, the more stuff you know. So here are the models of this vehicle. It's pretty funky looking. So broad side armor, 3 inches. So it's not like the T29 or T32 where the tracks are covering up a lot of the side armor. So better size grade, but it has a hemispherical turret, so more like the Russians. And the frontal plate is more like the Tiger II design. So everybody liked the Tiger II, so everybody designed it based off the Tiger II. But it was popular, it was effective. So yeah, this tank was pretty interesting. Still is, compared to stuff like KV-122. So gotta bring that stupid tank up. Oh god. Such a cash grab of a tank. No effort. Same freaking model. Collision models too. But here you can see, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Got machine gun boobs. Like it. Love it. So, you already saw this vehicle previewed in the Leakdish episode because you already downloaded this vehicle for the 9.17 test server. And now, if you already downloaded 9.17 for the live server, you already have this vehicle in your main data files. So you already know all the stats, presumably, but some people don't look at them, so oh well. So here are the initial stats, so take a look at the extremely high horsepower per turn ratio, the pretty good dispersion on the move, the terrain resistance is also pretty good, view range is pretty good for heavy, DPM is average, accuracy is not as good, but aim time is pretty good, so it's a pretty fast heavy tank, but they actually buff the stats. So here is the test server on 9.17, and I already checked all the stats to the live server. Live server is even more buffed than these stats. So here you can see on the test server, they buffed the DPM, buffed the accuracy, and the dispersion. So, and the aim time, because why not? They also buffed the frontal plate a little bit, and they buffed the top speed to 35 now. So, why not? And it has 100 rounds of ammo. So, wait, let's compare the live stats just to be sure. So here is the live 9.17 test server. Not test server 7. 9.17 live server. It's been 2 months. Get with the times. So here you can see the frontal plate. So upper plate 121. Well sloped to give you about 190-ish. Unangled. So that's still pretty good. Lower plate 190-ish. But it's not as well sloped. It's thicker though. So frontal plate should be should be pretty good against medium tank shells. Most medium tank shells. But you should angle this hull like this. And therefore, it's 220 at the front and 210 for the lower plate up to 240. 250. So that's how you should angle this vehicle. Side armor is auto bounce. The turret base is 229 rounded. So 250 effective. to 300 automatic ricochet. Mantlet is 229, but it's flat. I mean, unless you have a 250mm penetration APCR shell, most guns at tier 8 won't penetrate this mantlet. You do have the cupola, but it's covered with periscopes, so you might hit the periscope and does no damage to the actual hull or the tank. So it's like the T-32, super trollish. But side armor is 76, so the usual. Rear armor is the same. Side of the turret is 127, so it's all about frontal plate armor. It's like the VK4502P Aus-B. Not as much armor, but it's American. So you should side scrape like this because the cupola is on the right hand side of the hull. So when you're playing this vehicle, side scrape like this to cover up this cupola, and imagine the vertical line of my mouse as the wall. So that's how you should side scrape, covering up the cupola. But let's take a look at the stats. So they buffed the DPM. Penetration is below average, but it's a workable gun on the T-32, so it's workable on this vehicle, I hope. But accuracy is a lot better than the T-32 or T-29, so 0.345 accuracy is decent. It's actually pretty decent. 1.8 seconds of aim time, above average dispersion. Gun depression is not as good, but 6 degrees is workable. Elevation is 15, but it's a rear mounted turret, so yeah, trade-offs. But 20 horsepower per ton ratio, 35 kilometers per hour top speed, above average terrain resistance, so 1,500 health, but 50 below average, that's alright. So it weighs 60 tons, so combine 60 tons with 150 to 120 millimeters of armor and 35 kilometers per hour top speed and terrain resistance, you ram people. It's like the E50, but E50 has only like 11 or 12 horsepower per ton ratio. This has 20 for a heavy tank. What? It has normal matchmaking, so but view range is still pretty good. Camo is heavy tank, so whatever. Radio is standard, so basically you ram stuff. And you could play this thing as a medium if you want to. It just doesn't have the top speed, but that's basically the old FE4202P, so it's workable as a medium, but it's a heavy tank, man. It has armor. So here are the final thoughts and opinions. So it's the next contender for the Tier 8 Premium American Heavy Tank spot, next to the T-34, which got recently buffed, the T-26E5, the Jumbo Pershing, which is still pretty awesome, and the M6A2E1, the Mutant M6, which nobody has, so why not? So it's possible, it's very possible that this is a Clan Wars based reward vehicle, or personal mission based reward vehicles. Because you don't really get the same tier, the same category tank released right after each other, because we just got the Jumbo Pershing. It's very unlikely that we're getting another same tank at the same tier for the same nation and the same category. So I doubt it, but who knows? It has good DPM, aim time, accuracy, and view range, but it has tremendous, outstanding horsepower per ton ratio, terrain resistance, and ammo count. It has 100 rounds, so go spam high explosive for funds. But you have not as good gun elevation and depression, a little bit broad side armor, so make sure you know how to angle it or hide it. Penetration is below average, and top speed is only 35, but it's a heavy tank, so don't expect it to have like IS-7. Yeah, IS-7 has like what, 60 kilometers per hour top speed, and T-10 has like 50, so it's not like the Russians, but it's workable. So what's funny is, it's nearly identical hull mobility stats as the Comet, the Tier 7 British medium tank. medium tank. So it has better horsepower per ton ratio and close terrain resistance and almost the same hull traverse, less by 5 degrees per second, but it's pretty close. That's a medium tank. This is a what? This is a heavy tank with armor, by the way. So the mobility of this vehicle is off the charts. Alright, it's a heavy tank with armor, but it has the same mobility as a medium. So calculate that by yourself for a moment. The same 105 that's on the T-32 and the M6A2E1. It has better aim time, better accuracy, more or less the middle of the DPM, but not as good gun angles. So would you rather trade the gun angles for better aim time, better accuracy? I think it's fair. So it's a pretty good 105. Best accuracy, best aim time too, so it's very good. Standard 76.2, 3 inches side armor that's on most post-World War II American vehicles, like the Pershing, the T-32, T-34s. So you don't have the broad tracks that's on the T-32 or T-34 to cover up the side armor, so make sure you know how to angle or side scrape your hull. Rear mounted turret, side scraping, so same play style as the VK4502P, OSB, or the mouse. But when you're playing the mouse, or when you're playing the VK, I usually don't angle the side armor. Just go for the frontal plate, because the frontal plate is insane. So it's more like the mouse. It has a right-handed starboard side commander cupola, so side scrape like side scrape with the cover to the right, like how I showed you, because people will shoot at your cupola. So it weighs 60 tons with 20 horsepower per ton ratio, very good terrain resistance, 20mm upper frontal plate and 152 lower frontal plate. You will ram stuff. It's like the E50, except you're not as fast, but you have better horsepower per ton ratio. Yeah, just go ram stuff. So this vehicle is basically a medium tank hunter tank, and you can play it as a normal heavy. So 2 roles. And you already know that vehicles have 2 roles or multiple roles are very viable. So this tank is great. Amazing. It will surprise the medium meta. So basically, if you're playing on Himmelsdorf, if you're going for the castle at the top, don't be surprised that you see this vehicle hiding up there with medium tanks right off the bat, because it's fast enough to get there with the horsepower per ton ratio, and yeah, it has armor. So it's unlikely to be sold in the premium shop because we just got the Jumbo Pershing. So it's unlikely that we're getting same category, same nation, same tier vehicle right after each other. So this could very be the next IS-5 or for the new set of personal missions. I'm hoping for the personal missions because everybody has a chance to get it. Nobody want to play Clan Wars. Nobody has time, right? So yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot interesting, the KV-122. Gonna keep ripping on that tank. Gonna keep ripping on it. Piece of crap. So here are some of the more obscure designs, American design vehicles. So here you can see the Fat Man. The TV-1. Awesome name. So it has machine gun boot. If this vehicle, if the TV-1 ever makes it into World of Tanks, I would actually give up money to buy this thing. If this thing costs $100, I'll buy it. Even $200 up is so stupid. It's like the T-28 concept to the 10th degree. Oh my god, it's hilarious. So there were a lot of good designs and obscure American design vehicles, and I highly recommend you checking them out in the works of the late Mr. R.P. Hunnicutt, Mr. Richard Pierce Hunnicutt. He is a great man. He is a mechanical engineer, I believe, and on spare time he researched a lot of the vehicles, like the armor vehicles, armor cars, half-tracks, main battle tanks of the American Army. So I highly recommend you checking out all his works. And currently there's a book, the reprinted Firepower, A History of the American Heavy Tank, on sale on World of Tanks webpage for like $50 or $60. Originally the book cost about $300, and that was in 1989. So $300 in 1989 money is a lot. That's about $1,000 in today's standard. So for today, the reprint for Firepower is only $50. And it comes with the code for something, I don't know. But if you want one, I highly recommend you having one because I love the book. It's a great book. You can get it with the ebook version, the PDF version I had. But everybody knows the hardbook or hardcover book version is obviously better for the newer generation because everybody goes on mobiles. And yeah, today's generation is all electronic. So if you want the book, it's only one product from World of Tanks I recommend. So get this book if you want, but I highly recommend it. And there you go. Chrysler K, 20 horsepower per ton ratio. It's like you're playing your, let's say, Centurion. You're playing Centurion 1, or you're playing the Type 59, and you want to go to the Himmelsdorf castle. Oh, I'll be there fast because I'm a medium. Yada yada. Doo-doo-doo-doo. There's a Chrysler K waiting for you at the top of the hill. You cannot penetrate him without go ammo, and he has the armor to easily defeat yours. He has the DPM too. Wow, this thing is crazy. So expect great things. But there you go, folks. The Chrysler K. So thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.